Hi, I'm Harold Bell, and this is the Legends of Inside Sports and the Way We Were. Today we will spotlight a Inside Sports legend, and we're talking about none other than NBA godfather Arnold Red Auerbach, the greatest coach in the history of the NBA. This segment will be titled Red in Black and White. In 1950, Chuck Cooper of Duquesne University and a second-team All-American would be drafted by the Equal Opportunity Pioneer Employers of the NBA, Boston Celtic coach Red Auerbach and owner Walter Brown, making him the first black player drafted and signed by an NBA team. The NBA is now the most integrated sports franchise in America. I met Red and Dottie Auerbach on a Chevy Chase playground in a Maryland suburb of D.C. in the early 70s. They were hanging out watching Summer League basketball. Dottie was sitting alone by herself outside the fence watching the action. We struck up a conversation about one of the players. I thought to myself, this little white lady sure knows a lot about the game of basketball. We would talk basketball for the next 30 minutes when suddenly her husband shows up with cold drinks for them. Her husband was the one and only Red Auerbach. She introduced us to each other, and Red growled something sarcastic, and Dottie said, Arnold, stop acting up. Red had a demeanor of a tiger when he didn't want someone getting too close, but in reality, he was nothing but a pussycat. When I left the Chevy Chase playground that evening, excuse me, Red hollered at me and said, call me. I will be on your show sometime. I am listed in the telephone book. Evidently, Dottie had told him I had a sports talk show. I could not wait to find a telephone directory to see if he was listed, and sure enough, there he was. He was in the telephone book. You know, Red Auerbach was a rare superstar. You know, he had his telephone number listed and he answered his own telephone. I don't ever remember them having an answering service, or maybe I just never left a message. For the next 30 years, Red and Dottie Auerbach would become a fixture and supporters of Kids in Trouble and Inside Sports. During that relationship, my wife Hattie and I would visit their home in upper northwest D.C. on Massachusetts Avenue. We would often have lunch with Dottie, and she would show off her antiques and art collection in the room of a next-door apartment. The walls of that apartment had been knocked down to accommodate her collection. Dottie was a classy, down-to-earth lady, and we fell in love with her. I will never forget the first time Red invited me to have lunch with him. He asked me to meet him on the corner of 9th and F Streets, Northwest in D.C. I'm thinking we're going to have lunch at some fancy restaurant. Boy, was I in for a surprise. He treated me to a kosher hot dog with sauerkraut, the first time I ever had sauerkraut, and an RC cola from a vendor stand. We will walk later around the corner to Oppenheimer's jewelry store, where his brother, the late Zang Auerbach, was the manager. Zang had been a cartoonist for the now defunct Washington Star newspaper before his retirement. He would later draw a cartoon of Hattie playing a guitar for her 40th birthday, while holding a guitar. You can see it behind me, portraying the legendary and late comedian Jack Benny. The caption said, "I'm 39 years old and not a day older." Much like the great Jack Benny did, all the way up until his 70s. He kept saying, "I'm 39 years older and not a day older." Much like Red, Zhang and his son Johnny, who also worked in the store, were rare jewels. The jewelry store will become my downtown hangout. I remember one day walking to the store and there was Red, Zhang, Celtic great Sam Jones, and Washington Bullets Wizards Community Relations and owner Abe Poland's right-hand man, the late Jaime Perlo, joking around. Before I could get through the door good, Jaime was asking Red out loud, "What does Harold Bell have on you? Every time I turn on the damn radio, there you are on his show." Without hesitation, Red responded, "My wife loves him." When I called the house to talk to Red, and Red found out it was me, he would shout out, "Hey, Daddy, it's that nuisance Harold Bell again." "Oh, Daddy, it's your boyfriend, Harold Bell." Red and Dottie treated Hattie and me like we were family. Red's idea of entertainment, he loved to attend double dutch jump rope tournaments in the inner city. I would call him and we would go and sit up in a far corner of a gym and enjoy the program. He would swear the kids participating were some of the greatest athletes in the world, and he might have been right. You know, too many of us have accused the Boston Celtics of being a racist organization. Nothing could be further from the truth. Today, the NBA is the only sports franchise that has a black owner, Michael Jordan. This is 2017, folks. In the 80s, sports editor George Solomon of the Washington Post heard me reading a commentary on my radio sports talk show, explaining to my listening audience they had it wrong about the Celtics being a racist organization. Instead, the city was where the problem was and not the Celtics. He called me and asked me to write an op-ed column expressing my opinion relating to racism in Boston. In the column, I pointed out the NBA is the most integrated franchise in American sports thanks to Red Auerbach and Walter Brown. The Celtics were the first NBA team to draft a black player, Chuck Cooper, the first team to play 5 black players at the same time, the first to hire a black head coach, Bill Russell, and the first to hire the first black general manager, Bill Russell again. The NBA's first six man was Sam Jones. Case closed. You know, a lot of came out when too many people were blind by the white boy named Larry Bird being the best player in the NBA. Even Dennis Rodman and Isaiah Thomas were all saying that Larry Bird would just be an average player if he was black. Man, come on. I couldn't believe some of the things that black folks were saying about Larry Bird. I saw him up close and personal, and that white boy could play some basketball, man. You know what I'm saying? He could play some basketball. Well, Earl Lord of West Virginia State in the CIAA, like I said, was the first black to play in a game, beating Chuck Cooper by one day. Earl Lord was discharged from the Army one day before Cooper. And for years, basketball historians like former NBA analyst Sonny Hill and Howie Evans, sports editor for the New York Amsterdam News, were under the impression that Cooper was the first to play in an NBA game. I had Red address the issue in 1974 on my sports talk show, Inside Sports. He and his lovely wife, Dottie, were my in-studio guests. Red made it clear that Lord was the first to play in an NBA game. Lord played for West Virginia State in the CIAA and was named the Player of the Decade in the 40s. But they also ignored his accomplishments. They finally inducted him into the CIAA Hall of Fame in 1998, only after I brought it to legendary Winston-Salem State University basketball coach Clarence Big House Gaines' attention. Clarence Big House Gaines was my mentor and my daddy, really. He saved my life. For years, the NBA had forgotten that it was Earl Lord who had broken its color barrier or ignored the fact that left him on the outside looking into the Hall of Fame. Lloyd was not only the first to play in a game, but he was the first to play on the NBA World Championship team with the Syracuse Nationals with teammate Jim Tucker. He was also the first black hired as a full-time head coach. Bill Russell of the Celtics was a player coach. When Earl mentioned the oversight to me, I asked Red, to remind them. And it would be Red and the late sports columnist for the Washington Times, Dick Heller, and me, who will lead a campaign to get Earl Lloyd inducted into the NBA Hall of Fame in 2003. And in 2000, the NBA All-Star game came to Washington, D.C. And I came up with this plan to promote Earl Lloyd Day in Alexandria, Virginia, which is right across the bridge from D.C., and have a salute and tribute to him at the Bohemian Caverns in Washington that weekend. Well, the NBA, they don't like anybody doing anything other than NBA activities when they hit town. Well, they couldn't stop me because guess what? I had an ace in the hole. The ace was Red Auerbach. That's right. Red said, Harold, let's go with it. And that was a fantastic weekend. We had a clinic out in Alexandria on that Friday. No, I think we had a clinic out there on that Saturday in the tribute and salute that Saturday night at the Bohemian Caverns. And of course, Red didn't make any activities during the NBA All-Star Week here in his hometown of Washington, D.C. The only appearance he made was at the Bohemian Caverns. That's right. The only appearance he made was at the Bohemian Caverns. And of course, they couldn't ignore that Washington Post did a big story to try to X me out like I didn't have anything to do with it. But out of those activities, Earl Lloyd was finally inducted into the NBA Hall of Fame in 2003. The sad thing that during the induction ceremonies, he never mentioned, of course, they're never going to mention me, anything they do, but he never mentioned and thanked Red Auerbach and Dick Heller. Never mentioned it. Well, what we're going to do right now, we're going to take time out to listen while Red Auerbach takes us down memory lane in 1986, the year of Len Bias. The next voice you hear will be that of NFL great, the great running back, Jim Brown, the one and only. Stay tuned. I'll be right back.
Well, Harold has been a crusader for the rights of black people all of his life. He has also been a crusader, had a lot of friends, not only in the black community, but the white community in sports. He's always been outstanding, always an individual, always speaking his mind, always giving you a platform to express your views. And when I was incarcerated, he did everything he could to attack those that incarcerated me unfairly. And he's one of my friends over the years. We've done many things together. So Harold is truly a man that believes in his culture and his people, and will always be that way because nobody's ever been able to change him. So, hey, that's my partner.
I would like to welcome to the mic of Inside Sports, a guy who's no stranger to Inside Sports, but I know sometimes he wish he was a stranger. Like this morning when I get him out of his bed this early, I would like to welcome the one and only Honorable Red Auerbach. Good morning, Red. Good morning, y'all. How you doing? Pretty good. I'm up. That's good. I'm glad to hear it. Red, you're about to go into the regionals, NCAA college basketball playoff. Red, what about this group of seniors that are coming out that are heading into the NBA this year? Is this a good group?
Well, I think it's a very good group. I really do. I think there are about 7 or 8 very good players that I've seen. And then after that, there are about a bunch of good ones going through the first round and part of the second round. However, there's nobody coming out that's a franchise buster. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like a Patrick Ewing or a Ralph Sampson or an Elijah one. But what's coming out are damn good basketball players.
Red, heading into the regional final this year, I was thinking about You said there are no franchise busters, but we have a young man right here in the Washington area. It seems like everybody is high on all around the country, and that's Len Bias out at the University of Maryland. What is the potential of a Len Bias?
Well, Len Bias, because I had him at my camp last summer for a week, and we became very friendly, and I think Len Bias will definitely go in the lottery. I would assume that at this point, he'd be one of the first three picked. He's a great basketball player. He's a good kid. He's a great competitor, and he's going to make somebody and have a certain amount of impact. But it's very seldom does a forward that can turn a franchise around. You know what I mean?
Right. Uh-huh.
He'll be a valuable addition.
Mm-hmm.
And to be brutally honest, I might have a shot at him.
That okay. While we on that subject, Red, I've heard all around the league this year. I've heard different ball players and some coaches say, the Boston Celtics are not that talented. They don't have all these great ball players. Of course, there's Larry Bird. What is the key to the success of the Boston Celtics this year, Red?
Well, I think we've got talent this year more than we've had last year. I think Casey Jones has done a fabulous job because the players are very highly motivated. They want to play. They have fun. He doesn't cuss them and berate them and call them all kind of names and all that nonsense. All he wants to do is get the job done. And as a result, when you get a guy like Walton who's 33 years of age and he comes in like a 20-year-old kid cheering and yelling and telling everybody how happy he is, it's kind of infectious. I mean, everybody feels the same way. Larry Bird likes to play with him. Parrish feels that Walton has helped his game because it gives him more competition in practice. It's just a great feeling. And the ball club itself, they get along very well. In other words, if you see, when we lose a game, or a series, or a playoff, you don't ever hear any Boston Celtics saying, hey, Joe Blow lost the game. They don't blame each other. They lost it, they all lost it. They win, they all win it. It's a team concept.
We're talking to Honorary Auerbach, number one man of the Boston Celtics. Red, over the years, you have been able to pick up people like Bill Walton, Clyde LaBelle, Willard Knowles, guys from other teams. I'm just looking at Pat Ewing. You think Pat Ewing will be available one day?
I don't know whether I'd be around. That might help. I'll be at least 12 years from now.
Red, I'm wondering what kind of mental effect will this season have on Pat Ewing. The kid has really been has had a whole lot of injuries, and I'm wondering what kind of effect will that have down the line. It reminds me a lot of Bill Walton.
Well, not really. I think he is more settled than Bill Walton was in his early days. Bill Walton, was very outgoing and this and that. Whereas Patrick Ewing is more serious, and I love the kid. I know him well, and he's just highly motivated. He's a great player, and he's got good work habits. John Thompson did one great job, not only in improving the Patrick Ewing's playing, but in making him into a man. I think I have a lot of respect for Pat. I just love the kid.
Right. Ray, we want to go out with this question. Who do you like for the Final Four? Any team?
Well, I haven't paid too much attention to the brackets.
Right.
However, some of the best teams that I think will be in there will be Kansas, Duke, St. John's, and of course a team you see like Kentucky got a big edge. Kentucky and Syracuse, playing the first few rounds on their home court. Mm-hmm. All they got to do is win a couple of games after winning their home court situation, you see. Mm-hmm. They got a chance to get in there. But right now, I think the Kansas, Duke, and St. John's, and maybe North Carolina. See, North Carolina, when they started the season, they won a lot of close games and won a lot of games coming from behind. And I said, one of these days they're going to get behind and they won't be able to catch them. And that's what happened. But that dude Smith, he does a great job. He's a great coach. But I want to say one thing before I get off the air. I think that Rusty Drizel has done one remarkable job.
Oh, you can't say that all about show. You can't say that all about show, Red. You cannot say that all about show. I've been on Lefty's case all year. Now,
you better get off. I'll tell you one thing. At the beginning of the year, he had no guards. They were playing terrible. And it's because of the guards. And he developed that Gatman and that Baxter where they're playing pretty damn good basketball. And I think he's really done a good job. I mean, I call it what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know you know.
And I think his coaching job, he lost a couple of heartbreakers. He lost a lot of close ball games. But he won a few big ones. And look what he's done with Byers. I mean, you got to give Rusty some credit. Byers doesn't do it by himself.
Right.
He's got to get help.
Well, you just made my program director's day today because he's been on my case. You just made his day. And I'm cutting you all down. See, but I'm holding the button, Mr. Auerbach, and I agree with you. I think Lefty's done a great job.
I think Thompson has done a great job.
Oh, no, you're going to make Harold fall off the show now.
No, I really do. You can't lose Patrick Ewing and Billy Martin and then finish up in the top 10 in the country. That's pretty good.
Yeah, Red. Okay. You ruined my day. Red, thank you.
Nice talking to you.
Hey, love you. And Red, please say good morning to your lovely wife, Dottie, who's one of my biggest supporters. And keep up the great job that you're doing.
Always nice to see you and always be with you.
All right. That was the greatest, Red Auerbach. A great human being. Not only a great sports personality. Like I said, if you didn't know him, you say, well, this guy's a rough dude. One of the nicest people that you ever want to meet. And you start talking about giving credibility for my success as a radio sports talk show host, my success in the community. And you got to give up top to Muhammad Ali and Red Auerbach. They were always there. You heard him talk about Len Bias. One of the things I want to talk about today because I could have saved, or helped Red save Len Bias' life. I knew Len Bias was dipping and dabbing. It wasn't his first time doing drugs. Len Bias, I met in 1984. I was introduced to him by his Maryland teammate, Adrian Branch. Adrian's father, Charles, and his mother, Carolyn, we all grew up together in Northeast D.C., and we all went to Spingarn High School. And I played in on the football team as a freshman with Charles and Dickie Wells were the starters on that great 1955 team that beat the great Armstrong team with future NFL Hall of Famer Willie Wood. We beat them 13-7 in Cardozo Stadium, earning the right to play Cardozo for the D.C. Public High School Championship. And we ended up tying Cardozo 0-0, losing the game on something they called penetration rule, where Cardozo crossed our 50-yard line more times than we crossed theirs, and so they were able to go to the championship game against Gonzaga, I think. But in the meantime, I was that year I didn't play. I sat on the bench most of the year, so I was no big star on that team. But that was a great football team. In later years, after college, marriage, and etc., Carolyn, along with friends Rita Bailey, her son was NBA player, a great thoroughbelly, and Kerry Lowe, NBA great Sidney Lowe, who's now, of course, the assistant coach for the Washington Wizards. Well, they would become big supporters of Kids in Trouble, my nonprofit organization. And Adrian went on to become a great, star basketball player in high school at DeMatha and college at the University of Maryland. And he would encourage his teammates to participate in my celebrity tennis tournaments and fashion shows. And Len Bias played in the tennis tournament and modeled in the fashion show. I got some terrific pictures of Len modeling in the fashion show. No, Adrian was a frequent guest on Inside Sports, my radio sports talk show, excuse me. He even occasionally hosted a show when I was out of town. Adrian introduced me to Len Bias, and that's where it all started. And of course, Adrian was the one that came to me with concerns about Len Bias's drug abuse. Of course, Adrian was dipping and dabbing himself. He didn't he didn't realize that I knew that, and he had given me Len's cell number because he knew Len respected me and would listen to me. And I tried to catch up with Len, and I couldn't catch up with him. He wasn't answering his phone. And so Adrian told me where they were having a party one night out on the campus of University of Maryland. I drove all the way out there, couldn't find him, man. It's a funny thing when folks are doing them drugs and traveling in the fast lane like Len was, they can duck you, especially if they know that you're trying to find them. Same kind of thing went down with Sugar Ray Leonard. Well, he got heavily involved with drugs. But what saved Sugar Ray Leonard is that his best man, Joe Brody, kept me abreast of what was going on. And Joe came to me and said, Harold, man, you got to talk to him. He's doing cognac and cocaine. So that's the kind of thing that go on. But Ray, again, in the fast lane, they had money. And every time I would try to track Ray down, he would duck me too. And he had folks like on the sidelines. You had Jinx Morton, Holly Dunlap, Dave Jacobs, Trainer, Mike Trainer, his man. All these folks knew what was going on, but they didn't care as long as a dollar was coming in. Well, that's probably what happened to Len Bias. He had all these hangers on, all these cheerleaders. All they could care about was having a good time. And unfortunately, I didn't. Red kept trying to find out. He was trying to find out before he was going to make that final move on Lynn. And he kind of knew I knew what was going on in the street. So I remember he called me and said, were there any double jump competition going around on the city? I told him, yeah, there was a couple of places. So we met and went up over Coolidge High School and we talked. And he told me, he said, Harold, I think I'm going to get Lynn. I think I'm going to get him, man. I think I'm going to get Len Bias. And he was fishing, but I wouldn't tell him what I knew because I didn't want to jeopardize Len's career. But in the meantime, I was putting his life on the line because if I told Red Auerbach what was going down, he would have been able to put his hands on Len Bias, what I couldn't do. So when I say there was an opportunity for me to save Len Bias, all this other stuff you hear is a bunch of BS, man. And you can understand his mother wanted to protect her son, that this was his first time. It was not his first time. Um, all I can say is when you look around and you see how these drugs have affected a lot of our people in our community, even our mayor for life, Marion Berry. He was set up because of drugs. The girl set him up with cocaine. You could tell Marion didn't know what he was doing. And that's how the feds busted him. And of course, Petey Green, another dear friend of mine, who Petey and I went on a lot of road trips together because I would go because he knew I didn't drink or do drugs, and I was there to hold the money after he would perform a show. And I remember one night in Pittsburgh after a show, he gave me the money. I was tired, so I went on back to the room. And he made like he was going to bed, but he got up and went on out and did his thing. But that's how it was. They always kept that away from around me. It didn't allow me to see what was going on because they know I did not want any part of it. And of course, our latest loss, Jim Vance. And you know, his third wife, Kathy, uh, was a big fan of mine, and Sandra Raspberry, Bill Raspberry's wife. You know, they supported what I was doing out there, and especially Kathy supported me in staying on Jim's case. You know, but that's how it go. People don't know what the real deal is, and you know, when you're able to tell what the real story is, they don't know because they're not aware of it. But once again, man, all the credit and glory goes to God, and all the credit and glory goes to the likes of Red Auerbach and Dottie Auerbach, who were there for me. So that's going to be it for this segment of Inside Sports and the Way We Were. I want you to remember that every black face you see is not your brother, and every white face is not your enemy. Until next time, you can color me gone.